existing robot technology, like these big machines behind a fence doing the same thing 24 hours a day, and make them into a tool that help people do their work more efficiently. So we try to take existing technology and give it a slightly new twist, which is we want to make it into a tool that help people rather than a machine only for experts. And that has been quite successful. So last year our revenue was $170 million. We have now offices in 17 countries, 450 employees. We have estimated 58% of the total market share for our kind of robots, which is a collaborative robot. So we still have more than the competition combined in that market space. And last year our growth was at 72%, and that's kind of the normal growth rate for us. So we have a very steep annual growth, and we've had that year over year. So it's really been an explosive business we're in, and we plan to continue growing a lot over the coming years. So this idea of making robots into a tool that help people do their work more efficiently has really taken off very well. And this is also what we're planning to continue to work on in the coming years. And it has opened up a lot of new possibilities of what's possible to automate, and in which places we have positive business cases for automation. So I think it's a very exciting development that we are on. And another interesting aspect it has is also changing who can automate. So suddenly it's not only, you can say, highly skilled people who can automate, and it's not only the high wage countries where automation makes sense, but suddenly automation makes sense in, let's say, both small and large companies, but also in high and low wage countries. So it's really democratized where it makes sense to automate and who can automate a lot. And then at the same time, it adds this flexibility, because the robots are very lightweight and easy to move around, and because you can easily train people how to program the robots, it gives new possibilities of flexibility and redeployability for this kind of technology. So that's kind of briefly the journey US robots have gone over the recent years. And I think it taps into something a lot deeper, which is basically what it is to be a human. So I think humankind is different from animals, mainly in the way that we use technology, and the use of technology has been a very integral part of what it is to be a human over the last, you can say, tens of thousands of years. And if we look a little bit back in time, so this is of course a more recent photo of a chimpanzee, but you can imagine a primitive human sitting here digging termites out of the termite mound, which increases his efficiency quite a lot. So he'll be able to dig more termites out of this termite mound, and that could mean that you could say it creates some kind of unemployment, because he'll get some extra time that he could spend on doing other things. But in reality, it just creates more, you can say, efficiency, which means you can have a bigger population, or you can start doing more things with your energy than just getting food. So this is kind of you can see what's on this picture is actually extending the body with technology. So this is a super primitive technology. It's a stick. We later got the wheel, the fire, other technologies that all the time just meant we could do more with our energy and with our time. And that's the evolution with technology. So if we look back in time, humankind has always been mixed with, technology. Just I have to turn off a pop-up here. Good. Has all the time been involved in using technology to work more efficiently, but we've also used technology to understand ourselves. So in this picture here, you have used tools to draw the piece of art, which is understanding humankind, but the picture also shows people using tools to gather food in this case. So the history behind robots is actually a similar history, where the first robots, and it's the word robot was invented by the Czech theoretical writer Karel Čapek. The history behind robots started in the arts, where Da Vinci experimented with the humanoid, the mechanical statues, and writing dystopian literature about how robots will take over the world. But in the 1960s, around those years, this technology became sufficiently advanced so it could be used in automotive industry, and this is where we had all the car factories, the automotive factories around the world beginning to use robots. And that's where the industrial robot was born, and this is where we know these robots from. So the technology is on a trajectory going from, you can say, the traditional automotive factories where the robots do exactly the same motion all the time, every day in and day out, and then to the future where robots are all the time navigating with new tasks and new behaviors, new actions based on interaction with humans. So there's a clear tendency in the technology. It's going from this high repetitive, high throughput paradigm to the future where it's, you can say, very unrepetitive, very unique tasks and very safe and always interacting with humans. So if we have this view of where robot technology is heading, what we're trying to do at Universal Robots is a step on the way towards the future. We're making robots that are more safe and more flexible than the traditional industrial robots, but not as flexible and as safe as the future robots probably will be. And back to this with mankind. So I said that to be a human is actually to use technology. And we can find a lot of these different evolution of mankind images on the internet. This is just one of them. But common to all of them is that there's always tools there. You can say we are an animal that uses technology to do our work more efficiently. And in all of these more or less humorous views on what humankind is, the technology is there. It is our ability to use technology that differentiates us, and that is our evolution now. So we are no longer evolving through the genes that you can say our biology. We're actually evolving through technology these days. And so you can say the evolution of tools is central to our value creation. And if we look at these industrial revolutions that are very famous these years, so the first industrial revolution, mechanization of agriculture, actually freed up a very large portion of the workforce to do other things. So before the first industrial revolution, most people were occupied with getting food on the table and collecting food for the winter. But after the first industrial revolution, you can say 90% of the workforce could do other things. So only 10% of the workforce could provide food enough for the entire workforce or the entire population. So that's where we created a lot of value. And people moved to the cities, worked in factories, made mass production, which generated even more value. So suddenly everybody had enough furniture, enough food, enough clothes. That was no longer the issue. The issue was more about, other things. Then we had the third industrial revolution. You can say that's where we had the robots coming in, and also CNC machines. So that's called advanced automation, advanced manufacturing. And then today, Industry 4.0 is kind of rolling over the world, which is the fusion of Internet of Things, digital business models, and digital supply chains and digital manufacturing. So that's kind of what's happening these years. So the effect of all this is that we can now start doing mass customization. So if you have a car factory, you can actually produce one-off products out of this car factory, because the number of combinations on a automotive line is can be so large that there are more, you can say, different combinations than there might be cars produced in total. And that means we can also start reshoring manufacturing, because as we increase the amount of machine time in the world, the salary levels of the workers are no longer the only important thing. So other things such as proximity to consumers, supply chains, proximity to knowledge becomes very important parameters too on where to build the next factories. So this way of thinking has led to, you can say, a kind of manufacturing we see on the left here, where this is every factory owner's dream, is fully automatic factories. But what we often get is the picture we see on the right, which is people working like machines. So each of these people in these production lines, they have a work instruction that tells them exactly what to do and how many screws to put in every second. And they're basically programmed to do that work by their work instructions. And if they get ideas, nobody wants to listen, because their job is just to put that number of screws in there. And my point is, we're actually wasting something super valuable in that picture. We're wasting human creativity and human ingenuity. And that's something that consumers really want. So I believe the next industrial revolution is this mix of man and machine. That's what we call Industry 5.0, where we mix, you can say, man and machine together in the factory floor to create this, you can say, it's not 100% automation, it's 80% automation. The person is still needed because she's an expert in the processes, expert in the flow, and expert in the materials, and maybe also the customer needs and what good quality looks like. And there will be kind of a transition where we move more decision power and manufacturing power back towards the factory floor. And I strongly believe that the way we can create very good value in the future is this mix of people and robots in manufacturing. Because there are some things that robots cannot do, which is understand the customer. And as we get richer as a species, the need for these unique products, you can say customized products, will just increase and increase and increase, because most people can have enough of their basic needs met. They only need special experiences. They don't want a 2-year-old iPhone. They want the newest thing. They don't want the same couch as their neighbor, and so on. And basically this increase in change of, decrease in product life cycle and increase of rate of change will generate a drive for more flexible production equipment and more human knowledge embedded on the factory floor. So this is what we call Industry 5.0, and compared to 4.0, which is a lot about volume and say big thinking in manufacturing, the 5.0 thought is really that we need to mix man and machine, and also consider new business cases for how to monetize, and think of new ways to monetize on the factory floor. So you can say it's a natural successor to the 4.0 revolution. You can also say it's closing a gap that was created, because this human value thinking has kind of been lost more and more during the last 4 revolutions. It has created a gap between the producer and the consumer, and there is a chance to close that gap again. And one important point is the value creation of closing that gap is vastly larger than you can say it's not a 10% factory output increase. It might be a 400% factory output increase if the factory can find out how to produce the right products for the customers. The drivers, of course, we as a species is moving up in Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We need more self-actualization, and it's also the reason why we're actually not losing our jobs to robots, and why we haven't already lost our jobs during the first industrial revolution, where we all moved to the cities, because humankind is not lazy. We do not just stop work. We find new ways of working, and these collaborative robots we're working on is tapping into an untapped potential through these 4 industrial revolutions, which is basically opening up for human creativity and allowing the factory workers to embed their knowledge in a better way into the products. And I just have a few examples here at the end where you can see 2 cases of these use of collaborative robots. On the left side, we have a Canadian loudspeaker manufacturer where you can say it's about the finish of the speakers. So the robot can do the rough polishing, but you cannot tell a robot what a good finish looks like. So you also have to have this human worker who can then tell the robot where to polish roughly, but then do the fine finish with her own polishing machine. And then if she's not happy with the robot's work, she can go over and adjust the robot program, but there'll still be a need for her to be near that. So I think this way of mixing you can say the robot and the man is really the right way to create human value. And on the right side, we have a guy who's working in front of a CNC machine, but when he gets a robot to feed the CNC machine, we suddenly get a higher uptime of the machine, and the machine can do more work in a you can say a consistent, boring way. But then the guy, he can spend his energy and time of thinking about optimizations and new products, and take more small order-ins from new potential customers, and then let the big batches run on the machine and the robot. So it's a better use of everybody's time. I'll just skip to the end here just a moment. So my point is really that we are part of creating the future, I think, for what manufacturing is, and it is really this not considering man against the machine, but not considering should we have man or machine, but it is combining man and machine for value creation in factories. It's really going to be the big next step, I think, for automation. Thank you.